So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're joining us in the world. You are watching the Common Global channel on the Singapore FinTech Festival platform. This is our 2020 version. It's a hybrid event distributed online and across the world. Well, we now want to take you to our studio where Aman Narain is standing by. He's from Google to talk about what we are focusing on in terms of digital banking in particular in the year ahead. Aman, over to you.
Thanks, Manisha, and welcome to our session on a discussion with some of the leading fintech and digital banks around the world. Before we get started, I just wanted to share with you how we're going to run this session. It's me here all alone in the studio, but there are a bunch of fantastic people we have around the world. And we're going to spend the next 45 odd minutes talking about three topics. The first is we're going to talk a little bit about the strategy and the landscape of digital banking. The second, we're going to focus on products that digital banks are building and how they engineer them. And lastly, on people and partnerships. The panelists have agreed to keep their answers short, sharp, and insightful. And we have a bunch of questions for them that we previously got from social media. I know some of you will send them in, and we'll try to weave them into this conversation. So with that, let's get started and meet our fabulous panel. We'd love to have them introduce themselves and the organizations they work for. So could we first start with Cristina? Cristina, do you want to go?
Of course. So hi, everyone. I am Cristina Alba. I'm the CFO at OakNorth. And we have been live for 5 years, and we are focusing on resolving the lending to SMEs globally.
TS?
Hi, so I'm TS Anil. I'm Group Chief Executive for Monzo Bank. We're a mission-focused all-digital bank 3 years since we got licensed in the UK. And at 5 million customers, we have real scale now and are gratified to be at the top of the charts on a whole bunch of different metrics that we get excited about.
Simon, did you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Simon Loong. I'm the founder and group's CEO of WeLab. We're one of the first digital bank in Hong Kong. We also have run one of the largest lending platform in mainland China. We run another one of the largest online lending platform in Hong Kong. We also have a joint venture in Indonesia. We do online lending, provide technology on both the tech and also the lending side.
And Samir, last but not least.
Hi, Samir here. Samir Subberwal. I've been with the Standard Chartered Bank for the last 26 years. In the context of MOCs, I've been involved from the ideation to pitching for investments, getting the license, hiring the initial team, and now sit on the board of MOC. Thanks, and thanks especially to Simon and Samir for joining us at this late hour on their evening. I'd like to get started with one question to each of you individually, and then we'll start with the easy ones. Samir, how's MOCs going? We heard you've had some challenges with some of the local incumbent banks. How do you manage that balance between incumbent banks and digital banks as you run both of those?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've had a very promising start. It's only been 2.5 months since we've launched the bank. We nearly have 60,000 customers. 75% of them are active with average balances of $10,000, much higher than what we'd anticipated when we started our journey. In MOCs, we have great iOS app and Google app ratings as well, but a lot to do, right? So this is just the beginning. The incident you talk about is basically our ability. We had a unique feature, some of the other virtual banks have the same as well, where the customer can, on our app, be able to pull funds from any other bank account in Hong Kong to fund their balances. Some of the larger banks in Hong Kong have decided to charge the virtual banks a fee that goes all the way to 2% of the balances that the customer is pulling from their own account. Clearly, the virtual banks are unable to charge that, or bear that cost, and clearly we aren't going to charge that to the customer for the customer to be able to use their own balances in the MOCs account. What we've done from Standard Chartered perspective is we've made it free for all virtual banks and not just MOCs. This is about financial inclusion, and it's as much about supporting innovation in the Hong Kong market. It's unfortunate, but that's where we are.
TS, you joined Monzo at a particularly difficult time. And I think in the first couple of weeks of you joining, there was a statement around significant doubt about the ability to maintain as a going concern. 6 months later, how are you feeling about that?
So we're really excited about where we're at right now, Aman. And as I mentioned earlier, so we have real scale. We're continuing to grow new customers. More importantly, those new customers are hugely engaged with us, and across any metric you look at, weekly active, recommended brand, all of that fun stuff. We've shipped a bunch of exciting products this past year as well. So yeah, things are looking exciting, and we're just getting started. This is building a digital bank and building the bank of the future. Is not an overnight affair. We're excited about where we're at. We recently raised even more capital. We're well capitalized. We have runway, customers love us, they use us. And we have, on top of everything else, a really exciting pipeline of new stuff that we will keep launching and making available to our customers. So it's an exciting time, challenging times for sure around the world, for every business pretty much around the world. But we're incredibly excited.
Simon, thank you, TS. Simon, the Alibaba, the Ant Financial IPO was all in the press. How's the pulling of that IPO impacted you guys and your IPO plans, as well as sort of what's the difference? Is there a difference in the regulatory environment that you operate in today than yesterday?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think over the last decade, right, fintech has been growing so fast, right? And what we're seeing is the regulation also need to catch up a little bit, right? Thankfully we operate a very different business model from the Ant one that is being criticized, and we don't have a significant reliance working even with our partners. Don't we have that, right? But I think what is interesting is after that was announced, there were certain additional anti-monopoly kind of regulations that's in discussion now that some of the market players speculate that it will actually open up the market for healthy competition. And I think that in contrast with what you just asked Samir just now, right, it seems that the mainland government is doing something about that with incumbents, and we're waiting for that to happen in Hong Kong as well.
Yeah. Cristina, you operate both as a platform as well around the world, as well as a bank in the UK. How do you manage that? How do you manage that balance when you're going to pitch to a bank outside the UK in terms of how do you create value for them and address their fear of you being a bank already?
So it's an advantage to us, really. When we are an enterprise software company that are offering solutions for SME lenders globally, there's nothing better to say we've tested it for real. It's not a lab that we are testing this. We have a bank in the UK that is not competing with you, bank in X country, because we're not going to be lending outside of the UK where we only have the bank license there. But look at the results that we've got in the UK. So we've lent more than 4 billion sterling in less than 5 years. We already have a run rate ROE of 23%. So this is only the showcase of what our platform can do, our enterprise software solutions can be doing for them as well.
So, I mean, if I stick with you, in Singapore, in the last week, we've had 4 new digital banking licenses, 2 of them consumer. With your advisory veteran hats on, what would be the top 1, 2, maybe max 3 pieces of advice you would give to those with the freshly minted new digital banking license? Maybe, Cristina, we'd go with you first.
Yeah, sure. Well, this is something I've done since forever. I've been in banking now 29 years. Make sure you focus on the products and services that you have visibility that they're going to give you returns in a foreseeable future, and don't get too attached to those that you see that in a foreseeable future are not going to give you returns, because they will not give you returns.
And TS, did you and Simon want to go?
Sure. So look, from my perspective, I think Christina's obviously hit upon a really important one. I'd say build a robust capital roadmap. As you're building out a bank, you will need infusions of capital at the right time. So make sure you have a good roadmap around that and what needs to be accomplished to hit those milestones. Number two, I'd say be incredibly clear what you're solving for. Right? At Monzo, we're insanely mission focused and want to make sure we bring tools in the hands of our customers to help them manage their money better. I think every company needs clarity of thought on that stuff because it helps you make choices. It helps you decide how you want to build the DNA of the company and everything else. So I'd say be incredibly clear about that. And then lastly, it is a tech company for a reason, right? Make sure that the tech choices you're making have a good long-term view around all of the different things that you want to do with it, both in terms of horizontally scaling, but also in terms of being able to build and ship new stuff. So take a long view on that stuff also.
Simon?
Yeah, I think people should not underestimate the effort in building up a bank from ground up. I think we see a lot of new digital banks being run or built by veteran bankers, right? I think, but the real problem is it is not a fully fledged bank yet, right? I think there's a lot of effort into building team, testing system, building the first and second and third product until getting economies of scale. I think that's extremely important that people should not underestimate that. For us, the bank is the fourth venture that we've built, right? I think in the prior couple of businesses we've built under the group, we've been able to make it profitable around 3 to 5 years, right? So I don't think that anyone should underestimate the effort required and also focus on the profitability, right? It is extremely important to drive the new digital bank of the future where it turn profitable hopefully in a upcoming like 3 to 5 years. I think that will be very, very helpful, especially going back to what TS was saying, right? To help on the capital side too.
Samir, we've got a question, the first of our questions from social media from Aaron at UOB. His question is, what are the best parts of a digital bank that you would bring into a traditional bank? Again, you being on both sides of that would be fascinating to know that.
Sure. Look, I think obsession about clients is something that I've learned in my journey with the digital bank, Mox, starting from the extensive research we did with prospects in Hong Kong almost 2.5 years ago. And then the constant engagement of customers and involvement of the customers and the feedback that we've taken in designing our client experience across the journey for all products and services that we've built has been quite different from what we traditionally do in the bank. So that would be one. The second would be culture and speed of innovation across the entire organization. While in Standard Chartered, we've also started our journey on agile at scale and in 2 of our biggest markets. So hopefully we'll start to drive that culture and speed of innovation within SCB as well that we've seen in Mox.
Did any of you wanted to add to that? TS, I know you've and Simon have straggled both, and Cristina.
Sure. So I might actually answer it in both directions then, Aman. So from the digital banks, I think what we bring to the party is extraordinary first principles thinking as we solve problems, and very often in incumbent firms, that's the missing thing because you start with making a bunch of assumptions and not at first principles. So I'd say that's one to bring into the traditional banks. And the other one is, just the mindset, right? Besides legacy tech, legacy platforms, and so on, legacy mindset can be a real barrier. So I think that's really cool to bring into traditional banks. But let me answer sort of the flip of that question, right? Speaking from inside of a digital bank, what do I want from the traditional banks? And I think
you got my follow-up question, but there you go. Thanks for that.
Yeah, because I'm sort of wearing my hat now, right? And which is what do I want from the traditional banks? And the thing for me is that, look, it's not the average of what traditional banks have. It's the best of, right? So you want best-in-class stuff around balance sheet, treasury, risk management, which traditional banks have. So we're looking for continue to sort of beef up the best-in-class version of that. The other is data. Right? Because most incumbent banks have been around for years and years, in some cases centuries, they have a lot of data which is varyingly used or not used. And I would love to have that data inside of a new company so you can build the smarter models out of that and so on.
You had that for a long time, TS. I guess you're missing it. But if we just use this as a point to go to the next question, which actually, Cristina, if I could ask you that, from Stefan from Deal Street Asia. He wants to know whether the introduction of digital banking is going to drive the unbundling of banking. Do you believe that that's going to be a driver of it, or it stays as is?
Well, it's a catalyzer, right? It's a tool. Being digital is just a tool that we have to embrace. Anything it goes connected to the prior question that you were asking as well. What digital is enabling everybody to be, it's more agile. What I like, and I'm seeing already, is that we are operating more in partnerships. By being new banks or new players in fintech, we have the customer is the number one priority to us, and as mentioned earlier here as well. But a more established bank, more traditional bank, they also look at the customer. I was in a traditional bank before, so I know that.
Yeah.
But what we're doing differently is the focus to what customer need are we trying to cover. At OakNorth, we're passionate about SME, the medium of the SME, not the micro, accessing the right access to debt finance. They all are banking with the traditional banks, but what happens is that they are not the number one priority in regards to lending. When a big corporate comes and asks for a 50 million loan, they go ahead in the list of priorities. And yeah, the SME is important for the traditional bank, but the requirement of an bespoke and tailored financing for them is not priority. That's what you call it, digital new banks that are focused on a specific customer needs. That's something that I wouldn't say I wouldn't call it revolution. I think it's a progression that traditional banking has to go to as well.
If we build on that question a little bit, there was, Simon, one for you. Do you think that, I know we've talked in the previous session, Sushan from DBS talked about creating a level playing field. Do you feel sometimes that virtual banks have an unfair advantage over digital, sort of traditional banks?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I have been on both sides and I envy both sides. I think to be more specific, I think I envy the scale, the balance sheet, and the depth of the talent in a traditional bank. But I also like the agility and the innovative thinking and the ability to build something ground up, right? But I think from that front, what we find most interesting when we attract talent from traditional bank to join the digital bank is allowing them the opportunity to make use of their prior knowledge and allow them to build afresh a bank that they love. I think that is the most exciting thing for us.
So we'll now switch to the product and engineering piece of this conversation. TS, question for you. What do you admire about the colleagues on the platform? What's the one capability you'd love to have from one of them?
From the existing incumbent players?
From Samir at Mox or Simon or Cristina.
Okay, so let me look at all three of them and answer that. So I would love to have the amount of capital in the tank that Samir has. I would love the lending chops that Cristina's OakNorth has. And I would love the 3 years of extra time that Simon has had to build his company.
That I feel it'll be unfair to actually not let the others answer that. Cristina, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'd love to have also the access to customers that Monzo has. So they've got, and the multi-product and efficient, fast launching capability they've got on the retail side. I think that's really exciting. And the same that you said about the others too. So, and the expertise and talent of Standard Chartered. So that would be really good to have as well.
Simon?
Oh yeah, I think for Cristina, I mean, I would love to learn how to do the SME model. It's always been a very difficult model to crack. Everyone knows that. So that's all. I think for TS, in addition to his looks, I think I would love to have his product focus culture. I think everyone knows that Monzo has great product, right? And for Samir, in addition to our both TS and my envy for Samir's capital pool. I think we would love to have the people. I think Standard Chartered has great people.
Samir, you've got a digital bank already and you've got a traditional bank, so you clearly don't need anything. But if you had to stretch your imagination.
Yeah, I think one, and I'll talk about Monzo. It's no secret that we're trying to win the hearts and minds of customers, just like Monzo has done. Our CEO talks about it all the time. And this is, I believe, key to customer loyalty, as well as is the catalyst for customers to deepen their relationships and take additional products and services from Mox. It's still early days for us, but that's something that we're aiming to emulate from a Mox perspective, from a Monzo perspective.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up AI in the context of this group. But we've got a question from Anil at HSBC that says, how do you actually make AI work for you? Can you actually give some concrete examples of how that's working for you, TS?
Sure. Look, I mean, AI is not a single thing that you turn it on and it's done, right?
Exactly.
So it's obviously a huge spectrum in terms of how AI gets leveraged. So we obviously use it for all sorts of different things, including a simple example being customer service and chats that we have with customers, and how that's, the bits of it that are automated or saved chats in terms of being able to respond quickly to customer needs. So that's a concrete example. I think we're all just getting started, right? As we think about the AI journey, I think we're all just getting started across the different layers of the stack of AI, right? We're beginning with just the tech stack to consume that much information and build tools on. The analytics layer, again, really, really early days. The business teams that think AI first and are able to generate the right sorts of hypotheses and create actions. And frankly, customer-facing execution, because it's very easy to talk about AI in the abstract, but these are such early days in terms of what this is going to look like in the next, even 3 to 5 years, forget, 10 to 20 years. So exciting, but early.
If we take that question a little bit from a different angle, Simon and Cristina, to you, is that how do you build product around something that is evolving so fast? And how do you recruit people for this? How are you going about that? Maybe Cristina and then Simon.
Yeah. So on the AI side, we've got contact with top universities. We had a professor from MIT, and we are hiring people that very early in their career, probably their first job, because everything has to be learned. We are trying to create learnings on things that have not been done before in terms of data series and learning. On SME lending, there's very limited amount of data. It's different to retail and small micro SME. You cannot find the pools of data and information to create those learnings on making decisions or finding valuations for properties or sites or factories. All of that has to be built in. So that's the way we're hiring and building the talent ourselves, pretty much from scratch.
Simon, is that the same for you?
For us, I think on top of AI, there's something that is very core to what we do, the tech side of the banking. We've been working on this since 2016, 17. I think because we started off with big data analytics or mobile analytics and alternate data, right? As in naturally, we started using that early on in terms of machine learning, in terms of model building from more prediction perspective, right? And then we sort of evolved into different areas of financial services, right? From image recognition all the way to chatbot, we do build a lot of technology ourselves, right? I think interesting examples with recently with COVID, right? Where people are going less to physical branches and they borrow from online from us, right? Traditional banks still ask people to submit, for example, a bank statement for proof of address, account, and name and stuff like that, right? And we were able to build an AI model to read the whole bank statement within a very short period of time because of the bank statements that were accumulated in the past, throw in the system. Now that we've got an engine that can read better than a human being reading bank statements and interpret everything, and even if the bank is going to change the format and different banks, right, we can be able to process that within a very short, within seconds, right? A great customer experience, save a lot of time. I think it is just an example of how we are having this mentality in anything and everything that we do.
And what kind of efficiency does that drive for you in order of magnitude?
So we're just calculating today, right? Let's say if we receive, 10,000 applications a month, and if it takes five minutes to read one application, right? And if I can automate the whole thing right now, with 10,000 applications, 5 minutes, that's roughly around 30 days per day in manpower to read it, right? So imagine you combine 30 days of manpower into like seconds, and it's completely scalable.
Awesome. I've got a question here from TS, from two of your former teammates. So I have to ask this to you, and then I'll come to Samir with the same one. It's from Megan at Amex and Patrick at Visa, who both asked the same question. It has a couple of parts. What does success look like for you as a digital bank, and how are you measuring it? What are the KPIs that you implement? I think they're just getting their back on you for this. But yeah, love to understand what KPIs you measure your own self by.
Yeah, sure. Look, running a bank is inherently complex in terms of the range of different things you look at, right? So I won't go through the whole list of those things, but I'll talk about what sort of sits at the top of that heap from my perspective and for Monzo. Ultimately, we're in the business of building great products and building them to solve real world problems for customers in a way that customers will love that product and use it. Right? So if we simplify everything down to that portion of it, then the question is, how do you measure progress against that? And clearly, there's a whole bunch of things that fall out from that, right? The features and products and services that you're building, what does actual usage around those look like, right? Besides headline grabbing things that we could do, what's actually being used, right? Are customers liking it enough to actually recommend you? Right? So NPS, Net Promoter Scores, the whole world tracks, but to really dig into it and figure out what about your product is making customers get excited enough about it that they want to tell their friends and family to use it as well. So that becomes another one. And ultimately continue to be really close to our customers, right? How are they thinking about this? When they're in the app, what are they actually using? How are they actually navigating that? What else might be a need for them that we can learn about, knowing by seeing the relationship that they have with us, so that we can make the next thing available? Because our revenue model or our strategic underpinning is all linked to solving those problems for the customers across the financial wallet. And so the question is, how do you stay close to that stuff?
So do you have one? Do you have one metric, TS, that you ask people when you walk in? NPS is super well established, but is there something that in your last couple of months you've really opened your eye to it?
Yeah. So look, tons of metrics. The one I like the most is what's actually being used.
Yeah.
Right, because that tells you, beyond all of the stuff that you can learn in research or sort of simulated environments, the proof of the pudding is in what people actually like and use. And if there's the one thing that excites me, it's seeing the stats on that. So peer-to-peer payments, are they actually using it?
Thanks, TS. Samir, when you look at, you've got two different banks. How do the KPIs differ? One needs to make money, one doesn't, or how does it go?
Look, let's focus on Mox. There's so many KPIs for SCB. We won't get into that. I think success and KPIs for a new bank like us are different for different phases of our journey. As we begin, and we're really, like I said, 2.5 months old, we're obviously focusing on client acquisition and engagement to the client, something what TS talked about. So we're looking at things like funding rates. We're looking at active customers. We're looking at, obviously, how many customers are provisioning an Apple and a Google Wallet at the time they activate their card. How many are setting up FPS as a default on their Mox account, because this all points towards a more main bank type of relationship, certainly for the payment side. And we're also obviously interested in knowing at this point in time how many cards are active at POS, how many customers are active on a peer-to-peer payment or Mox-to-Mox customer payments as well. Clearly, it's very important at this stage that we measure client satisfaction. One of those is obviously through the App Store ratings. We really focus on that, and the ratings for Mox, both on Google Play as well as iOS Store, are really high. iOS is 4.8, Google Play is 4.4. NPS scores are important. We are also looking at onboarding time at this point in time. That's a clear differentiator from the incumbent banks in Hong Kong. Our average time to onboard a customer is less than 8 minutes. With the fastest onboarding, I think a little less than 3 minutes. So these are the KPIs we look at today. Of course, there is the P&L. at this point in time. There isn't enough income, clearly. But as we launch more products and services, the KPIs will evolve. And eventually, it is the path to profitability and returns that will become important for the digital bank. We're just not there yet.
By the way, we love the fact, with my other hat on, love the fact that you got push provisioning as one of your KPIs. That's an awesome KPI with a bias. Cristina, as you look back at the OakNorth journey, could you point to one example or two that like really helped you as a transformational part of your journey that sort of really drove the S-curve for you in terms of growth?
I think it's a combination of everything that has been said here, but with an emphasis on looking at the P&L, and is right what Samir has said. There's different metrics for different moments of the journey where you are. So in the beginning, it was how many new customers we've got, how much revenue we've got per customer, and then it went to how much contributed value. So there was a real push. The numbers were published per week or even per day of how many new customers we had applications for. So that was real, and that was driving behavior and how much revenue we were expecting from those customers. As you evolve, those KPIs move, and the frequency that by which you share them is different. So we move from sharing things daily to sharing things weekly, and now we're sharing KPIs once a month. So that has changed and has driven a lot of behavior. I don't know, trying to think of one concrete aspect. I think it's hard now to find one.
Before we transition to talk about people in partnership, there's a popular question that's coming through on the chat channel, as well as was asked by Anant at SquareShift. Are any of you planning to make cryptocurrency or Bitcoin available on your platform? Samir, is Mox going to offer Bitcoin and crypto?
Really, you went with me first on that question.
I was just being democratic about it.
I can go first. I'll make Samir a favor.
All right.
Yeah, Samir, have a yeah. We are not planning. We are not going to go into, at the moment, there is no strategic guidance to go into payments or current accounts. Therefore, cryptocurrency is not in our roadmap. So we intend to keep focusing on lending to SMEs.
TS, since Samir needs some more time.
No, the answer is the same as Cristina. No, not on the roadmap as of now.
Yeah, and look, quickly for us, we pay close attention at the point in time where we feel like it's solving a real-world problem of banking or payments for customers. We'll go down that path. Just haven't gotten there yet.
And Simon, you live in a very you live in a very interesting part for this. With the, do you want to comment?
I have nothing more intelligent to add than the.
There you go. Okay, with that, let's move to people and partnership. The ability to hire people is something that is quite a challenging piece in this time. You've got banks hiring, you've got technology companies hiring. Maybe TS, we could start with you. How do you attract people to Monzo today? Given that there's sort of been that incredible valuation growth that is sort of little bit more sobering right now. So how do you bring people into the company?
Look, ultimately, the people that we want in the company are the ones that get excited about the mission, that get excited about the journey of building a bank and the journey of building something that's going to be lasting and belongs to the future. And that set of people are compatible with who we are as a bank, as a company, as a culture. And the way to attract those people is to talk about that, right? Because I could talk, till the cows come home about valuations and banking and so on and so forth. But that attracts one kind of person. The folks that we think do well at Monzo and bring the best of what they're already good at are the ones who get turned on by the idea of what we're doing, right? Whose eyes light up when they talk about, look, I'd love to build this thing in the future. These are real pain points that customers have. And if we solve those problems, we could actually make this amazing experience for our customers. And whatever role I'm hiring for, right, whether it's traditional banking functions like risk and treasury or hiring engineers, those are the people that we're looking for. And that conversation and getting them into that and making it real, right, not abstract, showing them real proof points of the kind of work that they would do that actually helps them build that for the future. That's the best version of new hire prospect conversation that I end up having.
Awesome. So, Samir, how do you do that with a different challenge on your head, right? You're attracting people to a traditional bank that's trying to do things differently. How do you attract and build that team?
Yeah, look, I think for people who are joining Mox, they're very clear, and we are very clear that they're not joining Standard Chartered, right? So we're obviously trying to build a completely different culture in Mox, starting with the diversity and the type of talent we're hiring. We have 50% of our employees outside of Hong Kong and 50% local. We have 29 nationalities, and we have 200 cities where people have been born. Of our employees. That's quite an amazing statistic, right? So in some ways...
That's just Mox.
That's just Mox, right? And obviously, they come with that comfort that there is Standard Chartered that's backing them. Lots of people have talked about capital being something that they would love to get from a Standard Chartered perspective, from a Mox perspective. So, they get that, and they get that ability to be able to still innovate within an organization that has the support on capital with a different culture. And that's unique about Mox. It's not easy to hire the number of people that we have over the last 2 years in Hong Kong, but we've been really successful largely because of what we're trying to build in Mox.
Cristina and Simon, partnerships it's big for all of you. Both of you have B2B2C businesses as well. What is the philosophy by which you approach who to partner with? As you start a journey. Maybe Simon, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think B2B is a big part of our business. On the B2C side, we have around 46 million users, right? On the B2B side, we serve around 600 banks, FIs, and FinTech in mainland China, right? I think we transitioned from the B2C from B2B is when we found that actually there are a lot of incumbent banks who really want the same kind of business model. The kind of speed, the kind of agility, right? And then we started. We first offered it to Postal Savings Bank of China, which is the largest bank in China in terms of number of customers. And eventually, we continue to build that. Obviously, the way it scales is completely different. The customer sales cycle we are talking to is very, very different. The sales cycle is much longer. The kind of way you pitch the solution is very, very different. Thankfully for us, because we're bankers, we are people who've used the same system for our own business, they've seen our scale, and also because we came from banks, right? A lot of this chief risk officer or the head of the banks, right, are actually our ex-colleagues, right? So they know like the quality of work we produce, right? So that becomes a very, very different story where we're people who know what we're doing and they've seen the track record, right? And then it continues to scale up very, very fast. Now we run around 4 to 5 different business models and a wide variety of businesses around.
Cristina?
Yeah, same as Simon is saying, moving from, in the UK, we are B2C, and globally, we are B2B, right? So the approach is different. The time cycle for the other banks to onboard someone, a partner like OakNorth, is much longer. And then the size of the other bank is really important as well. What we've realized is that bigger banks take a long time to incorporate a tool such as and service such as OakNorth, and there are 15,000 banks at the moment that are medium small size, which has a smaller, a shorter time cycle for onboarding partners like OakNorth, and we are working with them as a preference because they're going to be winning much earlier, and we can be partnering with them. So we find that that's really important at the moment.
We're down to nearly our last 5 minutes, but TS and Samir, did you want to get your thoughts, your one-liners on your philosophy? I know you both think about it a lot. So.
Yeah, so look, quickly in Monzo, we haven't done partnerships in any meaningful way yet. I expect partnerships are in our future when we start thinking about markets beyond the UK and the US where we are right now. Ultimately, any partnership works if you can create two things, that alignment of commercial and strategic interests and alignment of culture and values. And that's what we'll hold as sort of the headlines to think about as we get into the world of partnerships, but it's early days for us.
Samir?
Yeah, Aman, look, Mox started out as a partnership. It's a joint venture, as everyone's aware, between Hong Kong Telecom, PCCW, and Trip.com. We were very clear to begin with that we needed to have the partners so that we could, one, leverage on data and clients that they have, two, our ability to be able to offer banking products within the partners ecosystem is quite critical for us for success. Right. And then we have other types of partners on the technology side. While we've coded the bank bottom up, we've taken lots of partners along in the journey that bring capability. We have almost 40 partners that have worked with us to build the bank across various microservices that we've built with the partners. So partnerships is at the center of the ethos of Mox, awesome. Both as joint venture partners as well as from a technology point of view.
I have one burning question to close this out with. One of your fellow banks, startup banks, Starling, their CEO there, Ann Bowden, recently said that women make better bankers, period. I'll let Cristina have the last word, but TS, what do you think about that?
Women make better almost anything.
Simon?
I agree. I have a lot of ex-boss colleagues, equal number of men and women. I think we think differently. I think the combination of the two gender actually makes good team and help us to think about things more holistically.
Samir?
Aman, like you, I have 2 daughters, a wife, 3 women in my family. What answer do you expect other than the fact that they certainly can make better at anything, certainly bankers. And if I look at the SCB team that I have, most of them are women. So clearly proves that women are better bankers.
Cristina?
I think that the balance is the right answer. So the right balance of men, women, age, and nationalities is best. I've seen this at OakNorth. I saw it at my prior employer as well. And the most diversity, the better. If you put a bunch of women all from the same country with the same age group, they will not do the best bank or any best company in the world. I think diversity is the best. And I've shared this with Rishi and Joel. I think we're best because we have this diversity and we challenge each other in a very constructive way.
Cristina, TS, Samir, and Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure. This session, I think, has proved what Manisha was referring to about the camaraderie that we have amongst this community. So thank you very much for taking the time and providing all these insights, and hope for you in Hong Kong you get a bit of sleep tonight. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aman.
And great panel. And you're right, it does boil down to camaraderie at the end of the day. Without teamwork, you don't get anywhere. What a fascinating conversation. Great to catch all of that and understand the landscape for digital banking. To you and the entire panel, our thanks indeed. With all of the plans for 2021, it is definitely encouraging to see how fintech companies are continuously innovating to stay ahead of times and conditions. And that was really very much the focus of that conversation, along with a huge amount of innovation. And I really enjoyed what TS was saying there about wanting to work for a company like that. It has to be something that really floats your boat. And it's great to see a focus on what jobs mean to people working at these places.